Hey guys, and welcome to the TradeSkillMaster guide video for crafting and shopping. I'm Faith, and I'm doing a series of TradeSkillMaster guide videos. Be sure to check all of them out. You should probably have watched auctioning before you started this video, so be sure to check that one out first, and then let's go ahead and get into crafting and shopping. Now, Fade is a blacksmith and engineer, and we're mostly going to go over crafting first and shopping second, but since there's a bit of overlap with them, I figured it's best to do them both in the same video. So let's go ahead and get started. As usual, type /TSM to bring up the main TSM window. Now, crafting options are this Chimera's Eye, while shopping options are the Seal of the Argenton. So, go ahead and hit crafting options, and we'll just run through some basic settings. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory, but I'll hit on the ones that are most important. And as always, if you're confused about something, you can always mouse over it, and it will explain very well exactly what that option does. So let's go ahead and hit on some of the more important ones, though. Enable new trade skills, I think, is an important one to click. Basically, that means that as you're learning new patterns, be from buying it from a vendor or learning it from a trainer or just leveling your profession, it will automatically enable them for crafting. If you don't enable this, you'll have to go through and manually enable everything you learn. It gets a little bit annoying. So you might want to hit enable new trade skills. And let's see here, price and inventory settings. This is a little bit more in depth. So this will basically be where you get your crafting prices from. So if you use the TradeSkillMaster to do your scans, either the app or the in-game running get all scan, you can go ahead and choose auction database. If you use something like auctioneer, you should choose one of the auctioneer options. However, I use TSM, so we're going to go ahead and choose that. Profit deduction is a pretty interesting thing. It allows you to compensate for the auction house cut, which is 5% on the normal auction house. So by setting that to 5%, you're already factoring in the auction house cut before you even sell an item. That's pretty cool. Inventory settings comes down to whether or not you use TradeSkillMaster's item tracker or if you use Altaholic. If you use Altaholic, you might want to choose something like data store containers, but if, like me, you just love TradeSkillMaster so much, you're welcome to use item tracker. Characters to include. Essentially, sometimes you might have a character that's just got bags full of ore or something, but that's not for crafting. That's reserved to sell to someone else or something. So you can uncheck them. So let's say Rixon had stuff in her bags that I didn't want to craft with, so I could uncheck her. Uncheck her by clicking her once, and now TradeSkillMaster won't consider her as an option for pulling crafting mats from. Same for guilds. As you can see, I've got some guilds checked and some that aren't. All the guilds that are checked are my personal guilds used for storage, while the ones that aren't are social guilds, guilds that I'm in with friends and stuff. So the guild bank isn't my guild bank, and I can't steal the items from them. So you're going to want to you're going to want to uncheck any guild that you're not allowed to pull items from, basically there. Crafting cost synchronization is pretty much only for people who use 2 accounts, and so if that's not you, don't worry about this at all. If it is you, check out the TradeSkillMaster Advanced Tactics video I'm going to be putting out as well. Queue settings, you can set it here, but I like to have a little bit more control by setting each profession manually, so I don't really bother with this, and you're going to see most of this stuff a little bit later on. So I don't really worry about this restock queue settings at all here. However, just so you know what it is, essentially when we go to each profession, we're going to choose how many we want to stock, as well as how much gold we want to make off of it before it even considers stocking it. And this is where you set that. Where was it? You can choose the minimum profit you want to make based on the percentage of the cost, the gold amount, or a combination of both. You can also choose how many need to be missing from your inventory before you'll craft more. That way, if you have 50 items and sell out on one, it's not that big of a deal. You don't have to recraft right away, and it won't queue it. So if you wanted to wait until you'd sold out 10, you just switch that to 10. And okay, yeah, it's just giving me an error because my maximum restock's higher, but that's just because I'm doing a little setting here. So the minimum restock quantity, if you just want to restock everything you sell all the time, just keep that at 1. Maximum restock quantity is the most of any item you want to make. You probably don't need 5 million of every item, so 3 is usually a pretty good number. You'll probably set it higher for things like glyphs, lower for things like crafted mounts, but 3 is a nice middle of the road area. And like I said, I tend to change the settings of every profession separately, so I don't even ever look at this honestly. So However, there is some important settings in this window that aren't elsewhere. Filter out items with low scene count. What this means is sometimes there's a rare item, some crafted item that you don't see very often. I don't even know. Sword of Awesomeness. So, Sword of Awesomeness is an old sword you don't see very often. Someone finally sees one. It's not actually that awesome, but they think it is. So they post it up for 20,000 gold after they craft it. And except it's not really worth that much. No one's going to buy it. It's probably maybe worth 100 gold, you know? You know how that goes. So, but if you don't filter out items with a low scene count, crafting will be like, hey, that's worth 20,000 gold, and it might queue it to craft, even though it's not really worth that much. So if you filter out items with the low scene count, it won't take into account things you haven't seen very often, and that way your information will be more reliable on what's worth crafting. So you can choose, once again, your auction scanning add-on, and choose how many you want to have seen before it starts trusting the information, so to speak. And now, on-hand queue. We'll get into the on-hand queue shortly, but basically the on-hand queue is, given the items that you have on hand, what can you craft for a profit? And if you click Ignore Vendor Items, which I recommend, it will assume that you have all the vendor items you need. So it won't worry about, oh, you don't have enough parchment to make glyphs? Well, then I'm not going to queue any glyphs, even though you could totally go buy them for a few copper. And then, so that's what you want. That's why you want to hit Ignore Vendor Items. Then again, there are some pretty expensive vendor items. You don't want the game to just assume you have 18,000 gold to spend on an Orb of Mystery to make a mount, right? So that's where the maximum price per vendor item comes in. So you'd set this to like 3 gold. 3 gold will generally hit your jeweler settings, your parchments, your enchanting vellums, that kind of stuff, but will filter out things like chopper parts. So there's that. And then it just comes down to profession-based information. Like I said, Fade is a blacksmith and an engineer. So, let's hit blacksmithing. Like I said, all of these little options down here are for crafting. So you'd hit whatever profession your character has. So for me, it's blacksmithing. And you'll see this window pop up. Basically, down here is a list of everything that I can make sorted by category. So, here's all the chest pieces I can make. I thought it had this cleared out, but oh well. First off, I guess I'd better get to the general stuff. Just force rescan of profession is the important thing here. Basically, if you've learned something but TradeSkillMaster hasn't picked up that you know it yet, just hit force rescan of profession. It will scan your profession, in this case blacksmithing, and update what you can make. So then let's hit armor chest. So here's all the chest pieces I can make. Ta-da! And now, let's go column by column. In this column, there's either going to be a check mark or not a check mark. If a check mark is there, such as next to this Contender's Revenant Contender's Revenant Breastplate, sorry, it's a bit late, then that means that crafting has enabled the profession, or it has enabled the craft, and it will craft that. While all these other ones without check marks, crafting won't even craft those. Because, like, for example, Fell Iron Breastplate. People don't really buy that too much, maybe a little bit for transmog, but not much. Imperial Plate Chest, oh, I keep choosing the transmog pieces, don't I? But basically, you have items that generally don't sell. So you'd probably want to disable those and enable the hot sellers. There's, of course, the name of the item, as you can see. Sorry for the tooltips, I love my tooltips. Crafting cost. This is how much the add-on thinks you're going to spend on materials to craft it. So this is based on stuff like the mat cost on the auction house. The profit is how much you'll be able to sell given the materials cost and what it's currently selling for on the auction house. And times crafted is just an interesting little stat to keep you informed about if you've crafted 1,000,000 of those in your lifetime or if you've never crafted one at all. Now, the other thing interesting about here is there's an Enable All Crafts button, which will enable everything, and Disable All Crafts, which naturally will disable everything. Now, Create Auctioning Groups is a very useful tool, but that's going to be in my TradeSkillMaster Advanced Tactics Guide, which will be another video for you guys to check out. It'll be linked at the end of this one, but until you watch that, understand that you don't really need to worry too much about that. The other thing to know about this is, remember how I said that we were going to, well, let me get into something else first so I don't confuse you guys. So here's the options screen. Remember how I said that I go on a per profession basis and override all of the default settings? Well, I do, and this is where I do it. So you'd hit options down here and hit override max. You don't have to hit override max restock quantity. Basically, here's what everything does. Minimum item level to craft. Sometimes you don't really care what you craft as long as it's all Mists of Pandaria level. You don't want to craft any of that vanilla crap. So you could place a limit on item level to craft. So let's say 372. So now it won't craft anything previous to Mists of Pandaria, at least not underneath item level 372. They might have higher level craftables from Cataclysm, I don't remember. But that will allow you to quickly limit the amount of, quickly limit the types of items that you'll craft. However, I do it all manually, so I don't really need to do that. Max restock quantity is what I explained earlier. Basically, the most you want to have on you at any given time. So, I never want to have more than 2 breastplates because they don't stack, so they take up tons of bag space, so I have it set at 2. Override minimum restock quantity. Keep this at 1 if you want to recraft everything that you've sold. If you want to only craft if you've sold out of both of them, you'd set that up to 2. Override minimum profit is also pretty self-explanatory. It's how much do you want to make in profit from selling any of these items before the add-on will allow you to queue it. So I have it just set at a gold amount of 30, but you can set it at like % of cost. That way you'll always make at least, say, double your money, something like that. But I like setting it at gold amount. I'm not sure why, just the way I roll, I guess. So another thing and then I can go back and tell you what I was going to tell you over here, is so that's how you override all of your blacksmithing, right? Well, what if this Contender's Revenant breastplate is really weird, right? And someone really wants a ton of them for some reason. Well, you can right click on it and override a per item thing. So if I really wanted to make 50 Revenant breastplates, I just set that to 50 on my max restock quantity, and we're good to go. Okay, let's see here. Also, if you don't want to queue it, you can just hit don't queue items, stuff like that. Alright, sorry about that weird transition there. I needed a drink badly. Too much narration, not enough drink. Okay, so that's how you override all your different options just for the profession as well as for single items. So now we've got blacksmithing pretty much all enabled. We've got everything checkmarked on things that I want to be able to craft. I've got my settings set up for how many I want to craft as well as how much gold I want to make from it. There's only one other thing that you might want to consider, though usually you're okay with not worrying too much about this. Essentially, what you're going to do is if you hit materials, this is every material needed for your profession, as well as the mat price given the settings that you chose to use, be it auctioneer, auction DB, whatever you'd like, and then how many you have. I have a lot of volatiles, I've just realized. But basically, the reason this is interesting is for items like Spirit of Harmony, which of course you're never going to see an auction value for, not anytime soon anyways, you can right-click on it and override price source and put in a custom value. So that way if for some reason True Gold is really, well, let's not go for True Gold, let's go for something that matters right now. Living Steel's 1100 gold on my server right now, but let's say for whatever reason I only pay 200 gold for it. So I can say True Gold, Living Steel only costs me 200 gold. And that way, whenever something's looking to see if I'll profit from queuing, it will go off of my price source instead of the auction house. Granted, I don't get 200 gold Living Steel, unfortunately. So, that's pretty much everything you gotta do for blacksmithing to set up for crafting. And of course, it works pretty much the same with the other professions. Here is TSM. Here's what engineering looks like. Armor, guns, scopes. Pretty much the exact same thing with different recipes. And I, of course, don't have these professions, but it all looks pretty much the same. So now you go to the auction house. And here's our happy little TSM window, happy little trees. And you'd hit run scan. Basically what we want to do is, it's been a while since I scanned, so I want to make sure that all of my information's up to date. There is a TradeSkillMaster app for this. I may do, and here's the link to it right there actually, but I may do a video for that at some point, but it's not right away in my sites. However, you just hit this run get all scan, and what it's doing is it's just checking the entire auction house for materials prices and stuff. It doesn't take too long, and there we go. So now all of my data is up to date. So now we'd open Blacksmithing again and hit this button up here, Open TradeSkillMaster Crafting. That's going to bring up this crafting window. And let me actually make that a bit bigger so that I know that you guys can see it. TSM, crafting. I don't usually have this up too big, but let's make sure I get the right size. There we go, a little bit bigger that time around. Okay, so now we'd open this up and here's our window. And here's everything you need to know about it. Up here is things that you can craft. If you don't see something in there but you know you can craft it, be sure to check that it's enabled in the previous screens we were going through. Basically, here's everything I've enabled, which is mostly the new crafted gear. So here's the name of it. If it's queued, you'll see a little 1 times, 2 times, and that's how many it has you queued to craft. So there's all the items you can make. Here's how many are in different places. The first number is how many you have on the auction house. The second number is how many you have in the bags of the character you're on now. The third number is how many you have in the character you're on now's bank. The fourth number is how many you have waiting for you in the mailbox. And the last number is how many you have in alts. As you can see by this number, I sell on a bank tune. But that's what all those numbers mean. Item value. This is currently the lowest buyout cost of the item on the auction house right now. So right now on my auction house there's a Spirit Blade Decimator going for 8,000 gold. There's Spirit Guard boots going for 1,000. And then this, if you see any dashes here, it means that there aren't any on the auction house right now. So keep an eye out for that, because that might mean that you can get a lot of profit from crafting it. And then profit percentage. Of course, there is no profit percentage if it doesn't know how much you're going to get. But for those of you, for those that has the stats, you can see if I craft a Masterwork Spirit Guard shield, I'm going to spend only about 500 gold making it, because the item's value is 1,800, and I'm making over 1,000 gold profit from that item, which is 71% profit. So that's pretty sweet. So that's what that window's for. And this is crafting all, but if I only want to see, oh, what chess pieces can I make? That's all the chess pieces I can make, apparently. That means something's not enabled. I'll have to go check that out. Anyways, let's move on. Over here is the buttons. So Restock Q basically takes, given the settings that we've set up previously, combined with things that I can craft, what are we going to craft? So apparently I need 1 more living steel belt buckle to make 2 I can also make 2 Masterwork Spirit Blade Decimators and 2 Revenant leg plates, given the profit percentages that I see here. Granted, I don't want to make Spirit Blade Decimators because they take Spirits of Harmony, and I don't want to do that right now. So if it queues something you don't like, you can just come over here and right click on it once per item you want to remove. And now you'll see it's not queued up here. So now we've got some stuff in our queue. Let's take a look at how the queue's changed. Now it will give me my total estimated mat cost. So it estimates that I will spend 1,483 gold on materials, but I will sell them at a profit, and I will make a total profit of 1,395 gold. Granted, this is estimates, nothing's guaranteed, as you know from the auction house, but that's a pretty good indication of the profit levels you might see. And, of course, these things take materials, right? So check this thing out down here. As you can see, we've got a list of materials. I apparently need 24 ghost iron bars and 1 living steel to make these items. Now, I don't actually need any, because you can tell because the title of the item is in yellow. If the item is yellow, that means you have the materials, but they're somewhere else. They could be in a guild bank, they could be on an alt, but basically they're not on the character you're on now, but you do have the materials. If they're red, that means you're missing some of the materials, so you're either going to have to farm or buy them. If it's green, then you have all the materials and you're good to go. So, I have materials, but let's queue something that I don't have materials for. Let's go to engineering. Engineering works largely the same way, except of course I have different items enabled. Let's hit that Restock Q button. This time, it's queuing some mechanical yetis, and as you can see, some stuff is in red. That means I just flat out don't have it, right? Let's shop for it. Let's go into shopping. So I'd go to the auction house, Superior Engineer Auction House, and here we are in that TSM window again. And down here you'll see a button called Crafting Mats. That sounds familiar, right? Now up here you'll get a drop-down menu. I don't care about enchanting right now. I'm looking to buy stuff for my engineering crafting queue, so I make sure engineering's checked here. And if you're doing like jewel crafting or enchanting or inscription, it's important to use destroying as well. Totally different add-on or totally different plugin. We'll go over that later. But this basically is if you want to be allowed to disenchant, mill, or prospect for the materials, you're going to want to make sure that you select these and go ahead and hit search. And now what it's doing is here on the right, there's a list of the items that I need to buy. And so here's the item, here's how many I need to get, and here's the cost that crafting is assuming that I will pay for them. Now it's already searched for globe of water and there weren't any on the auction house. Surprise, surprise. Oh, this was probably not a good one. Okay, so if it doesn't have any globe of water, just move on to the next one by clicking on it. So I click thorium widget. So here you can see all the thorium widgets on the auction house. Thorium widgets, the item level of the item, not that that's too important in this case, but how many there are, how many are in the stack, how long is left on the auction, who's selling it, how much you're paying per stack, and by that I mean the size of the stack it's currently in. So this is only in a stack of 1, so this is essentially per item. And the percent of expected cost. Like I said, this add-on, the crafting queue is assuming that I'm paying almost 4 gold for them. As you can see, this is 2.5 gold, so I'm only paying 66% of the expected cost. That means that my profit percentage is actually going to be higher. Anytime you're under the percent of expected cost, your estimated profit is going to be higher. So now I need some thorium widgets. I need 8 of them, it looks like. So let's click on it and hit buyout. There's 3 and this thing pops up. Here's how much it's costing you and how many auctions you have to buy. I bought out the first one, bought out the second one, bought out the third one. Now we move on to the next because I bought out all of that price. So this is the next price. And here's stacks of 4, and there's 5 stacks of 4. So we'll buy those out and that'll give us enough. And then we move on to true silver transformers. So, okay, true silver transformers, there are none on the auction house. Roger that. So, I'm going to get some materials collected and we'll move on with the rest of crafting and shopping. And I have sent over 24 ghost iron bars. So as you can see now, ghost iron bars are in green here because I have the ghost iron bars in my bag. And then also it's green here on the crafting queue, meaning I have the materials for it. So when you've got the materials, just go ahead and click the button. You can't see my cast bar there because the window's so big, but it's creating my 2 revenant leg plates. So, ta-da, it's done. So now I have 2 revenant leg plates to send to my selling alt. There's one other button you should know about crafting, which is the on-hand queue. The on-hand queue will essentially only craft items at a profit that you have the materials on you to create, other than the vendor items, which of course we discussed in Ignore Vendor Items. So basically what this means is if you've got like a bag full of a whole bunch of crap and you just want to know, hey, what can I craft with this at a profit, you can hit the on-hand queue and that will queue up things that use the stuff in your bags and that can sell at a profit. So that's a pretty useful button as well. So that's pretty much exactly how crafting works. That's pretty much it. So this video is also about shopping because I wanted to get that whole shopping for crafting bit in, but there's a lot more to shopping other than just that. So let's go ahead and hit TSM, and like I said, the shopping options are up here and they're the Argent Dawn symbol. Once you do this, you'll find out that you have a strange shopping list called B. You don't actually, that was weird, I don't know what that's for. But once you hit the Argent Dawn symbol, you'll see this window. Over here, you'll find Dealfinding lists and shopping lists. Dealfinding lists are essentially a nice way to say, well, I want to pay this much for this item, so queue up a whole bunch of stuff that's cheaper than that and I'll buy it. While shopping lists are generally, I just want to know if this item's even on the auction house. I don't really care what it's going for. So, for example, if I was really into ghost iron ore, but I only wanted to get it when it was 2 gold per ore or less, I could create a Dealfinding list for that. But if I wanted to make a list to always look for trading card game mounts, that might be more of a shopping list. So that's the that's the main difference between the 2 lists. So let's go ahead and look at some options. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, it is getting late. I should not be making videos. Okay, general options. So default sort, not that important, but basically this is how it will automatically sort stuff. You can change this with a click of a button while you're sorting, so not that important, but I like percent of market value. Search results market value price source, you're going to want to set this to whatever you use to scan the most. So if you use TSM to scan the most, you're going to want to choose auction DB market value. But if you use auctioneer, you're going to want market value for auctioneer, stuff like that. That's just going to determine whether or not it's a good deal while you're shopping, so to speak. Destroying results default sort price. Destroying is its own plugin, right? Yes, we're going to do destroying in another video, so stay tuned for that video. And then, let's see here, automatically spent. A lot of these things here are just making the window look different or act a little bit different, but not actually that important. So mouse over all these, learn how they work, see if you want to use them, but for the most part, they're not the worst thing. Show results above deal finding price is pretty important in my opinion. So when you make a deal finding list, you're going to say, I want to pay 2 gold per ghost iron ore. Do you want to know if there's some for 2 gold and 1 silver? If so, you're going to want to make sure that you click that, because that way you'll be able to see stuff even if it's above your deal finding price. While if you just want to, I don't care how expensive it is, I only want to pay 2 gold or less, you can keep that unchecked. Quick posting is a new thing, which is totally awesome. I'm still getting used to it, but let me show it to you. Over here at the thing, you'll notice that there's this new feature right here, shopping quick posting. So what this means is you don't even have to have anything in a group. If you just want to sell a Tome of Clear Mind, I apparently have 8 in my bags. They're valued at 8 gold, so I can just shift and click that, and it just posted one. Yay! Really fast auction posting. This is something I really wanted from TradeSkillMaster, a way to quickly post single auctions, and there it is. So I was really excited to see that added in. So back to shopping options. So this quick posting auctions essentially just is the settings for when you post that kind of stuff. Do you want to match the stack size? Do you want to hide items that are in auctioning groups, which I do believe I do? That way it's like, well, if you're going to search for it via your normal post and cancel, you don't need it in quick posting. You only need the items that aren't in groups in quick posting, in my opinion. So I'm going to keep that hidden. You can make it so that window doesn't even open there by default. I like it open by default because it reminds me that it's awesome. As well as the default for how much you want to undercut using that feature. How long you want to post it for, bid percent, I want that up to 100%, fallback price source market value, this is all pretty self-explanatory, fallback price percent, good stuff. So basically this is all how long do you want to post, how much do you want to undercut, and what do you want to choose, what do you want to use to choose the price for items when you're quick posting. So that's all those options. So I've been talking a lot about deal finding and shopping lists, right? So let's go ahead and do that. This is going to be a deal finding list. Like I said, I've been talking about ghost iron a lot, so let's do ghost iron. So you go into the auction house and you hit ghost iron ore. And ghost iron ore pops up. Ta-da! It's like magic. So then you get your cursor over here and you can shift click, come on. Oh yeah, you have to shift click the icon, not the name. I always forget that. But shift click the icon, not the name. And that will add it right there and hit OK. So check it out. Now we got ghost iron ore. How much do I want to pay per ore? Like I said, I want to pay 2 gold. You can choose to only buy even stacks. This is good if you want to buy and prospect immediately or something of that sort. This will only buy items in 5, 10, 15, or 20 stacks and keep you from having a whole bunch of singles lying around. And so that's really good for that kind of stuff. Let's see, what else do we use a lot of? Let's say golden lotus. So we search for golden lotus, put our cursor there, shift click golden lotus, okay. I want to get anything under 350 gold, assumed. So, okay, so now we have 2 items on our deal finding list, right? So, I'll start from the default screen, or I will try to. So, here we are at TradeSkillMaster. So now you can see we've got lost. Alright, I found it. Sorry for the weird transition, it's way too late for me. So if you're in this kind of screen and you need to get to your deal finding searches or anything, just hit saved searches up here. Save searches, there we go. And then all of your shopping and deal finding lists will be here. We only have a deal finding list right now, but we'll be adding a shopping list shortly. So click on deal finding list and it's going to search for the items on my deal finding list. And now here we go. So remember, we added ghost iron ore and golden lotus. So golden lotus, I was saying buy out anything under 350 gold, remember. So here you'll notice 100%, 350 gold, 100% of max price. And anything under that is underneath the threshold at which I'll buy. So that will show me things that are cheaper than the price I paid. Well, as you can see, ghost iron is not doing so well. It's all much more expensive than what I want to pay, which does not surprise me because I put in a really low number. But that way you can see the item level, how many there are, how large the stack is, how long it's going to last, who's selling it, the price per stack given this stack size, as well as the percent of max price. In other words, how much it is compared to the amount you said that you wanted to pay for it. So, and then if you wanted to buy one, you could click Golden Lotus, click Buy Out, and you'd click Buy Out there, but I actually don't need any Golden Lotus, but it works. So, that's a deal finding list. Shopping lists work very much the same way, though you can have multiple ones. So let's say I wanted to make a shopping list for cloth. Not sure why I do, but I do. So you can add items out of your bag. I don't have any cloth, but let's pretend that a living steel belt buckle is cloth. So you can do this out of your bags by shift clicking. Oh, Contenders Revenant leg plates, or you can remove those if you accidentally add them in. Or you can do it via the auction house, just like we were before. So you'd be like, nether weave cloth. You'd open TSM so it actually works. So you'd hit your cloth list here on the left and then add item. Click on the icon, not the name. Okay. And so I said okay. There we go. So now nether weave cloth is on my shopping list. Now let's add rune cloth. Let's get rid of my bags because they're all up in your business. Add item, rune cloth. Let's say I just wanted to add cloth in general, though admittedly that will get some cloth armor pieces. But if you just wanted to add a search term, in other words, a name or a word that's in all of their stuff, like glyph would be a common search term, you could just add that in right there as cloth, and now we have a shopping list that's called cloth. So we go show saved searches, and now you'll see this here, a list called cloth, and it's searching for everything given the filters. So there's netherweave cloth, the percentages of market value, quite cheap right now actually, and then rune cloth, and ta-da! And now it's finished my cloth. See this? All of these ones are popping up because of that search term. See, I'm getting stuff like core fell cloth bag, shadow cloth, barbaric loin cloth. Anything with the term cloth in it is going to pop up given that search term. So that's a good way to shop for constant items that you're buying a lot of. I do a lot of transmog buying with this kind of thing. Shopping lists are awesome. So that's actually essentially everything that there is to do with shopping and deal finding. There's a few special things that you can do which might be covered in the TradeSkillMaster Advanced Tactics, but that is everything you need to know to start crafting and shopping with TradeSkillMaster Crafting and Shopping. If you guys enjoyed it, please remember to like and subscribe and check out all the other TradeSkillMaster videos. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys.